Welcome to Module 3. In this module, we're going to cover the DS2 operations. The docking station provides complete automation of all calibrations, bump tests, charging, diagnostics, and record keeping. This ensures that the instrument on the DS2 has been properly bump tested and/or calibrated in a timely manner, taking all the guesswork out of regulatory compliance and instrument reliability. When the docking station is awaiting instrument connection, the display will continuously toggle between three different screens. In your first screen, what you'll see is it'll show you the current DS2 software revision, and it'll also show you the serial number of the docking station as well. Now in your second screen, and then it'll show you the docking station's current IP address, and of course the serial number as well. And then in the third screen, the DS2 will display the server's current IP address, and it'll show the DS2 serial number. Now it'll toggle between these three screens continuously when an instrument is undocked. But take note of that green LED on the left-hand side. That green LED is showing that the docking station is awaiting an instrument connection. Through the keypad on the front of your DS2, the user has the ability to activate three different docking station functions. To activate these three functions, all we have to first do is press the Enter button on the front. And what you'll see highlighted is Docking Station. If you wish to select Docking Station, pressing the Enter button will then bring you the following menu. And under this menu, you'll notice you have three options: Set Language, Diagnose, and Information. In this example, we see that Set Language is highlighted. But if I wish to highlight any one of the other three, I can simply just use the right arrow to navigate through my menu. But if I wish to select Set Language, all I have to do is press the Enter button. And then I'll have an option of 4 different languages I can choose from: English, French, Spanish, and German. If I use my right arrow, I can navigate through those 4 and choose any one of the 4 I wish. And once I've picked the language that I want the display of the DS2 to display in, I just simply press the Enter button, and now my keypad on my DS2 will display the language selected. Now my next option from Set Language, if I use my right arrow, is Diagnose. By pressing my Enter button, I can select Diagnose. At this point, the DS2 will start to go through a diagnostics check. Notice the amber LED on the left. That amber LED is our indication that the DS2 is currently busy going through a diagnostics check. And in a diagnostics check, what the DS2 will pull a vacuum on the system, ensuring there's no leaks and that the solenoids and valves are working correctly. And if my DS2 fails a diagnostics check, on the display of the DS2 will be the words "Unavailable leaking." In addition to that, I'll also receive a red LED as an indication that the docking station has failed its diagnostics check. This is also an indication not to use this docking station. It needs to be serviced before it can be used. Now, by pressing my right arrow button from Diagnose, my last option is Information. If I press my Enter button, I can select Information. Through this screen, the user can view the DS2 configuration. And what it will show is, of course, the DS2 serial number, along with the current DS2 IP address. And in addition, it'll show the current server IP address. If I wish to go back to my previous menu, what you'll see highlighted is Previous, and all I have to do is press the Enter, and I'll go back to that previous menu. When docking an MX6 without the sampling pump, all the user has to simply do is put the unit in the docking station, and then with the lid, flip the lid down over top of the instrument. At this point, it'll establish communication and execute the instrument's scheduled functions. Now when docking an MX6 with the sampling pump, we have to ensure that the sampling adapter is in place. Then we're going to feed the instrument's inlet into that sampling adapter and put it onto the base of the DS2. At this point, it'll establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. Now when we're docking an ITX, first thing we have to do is squeeze the sides to open up the lid, drop the instrument in, snap the lid down into place, and at this point the ITX and the DS2 will establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. And if we're docking a Gas Badge Pro, what we have to do is ensure that the top of the Gas Badge Pro feeds into the docking station and it snaps down into place. And just like on all the other instruments, it'll establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. And when we're docking a Gas Badge Plus, we want to make sure that the top of the Gas Badge Plus feeds into the DS2 and the bottom snaps into place. At this point, the Gas Badge Plus will establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. And when we're docking a T82, we want to ensure that the top of the T82 fits into the docking station and snaps down onto the base. At this point, the T82 will establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. When docking a VX500, since we have an inlet port on the top of the VX500, we have to ensure that we plug the tube into place it down on the base until it snaps in, and then the VX500 will establish communication and execute its scheduled functions. After the instrument has been placed on the docking station, the following three screens will appear on your DS2 display. The first screen, the docking station will attempt to make communication with the instrument. You'll see the words discovering appear on the display of the DS2. Along with that, an amber LED. That amber LED is our indication that the docking station is communicating with the instrument and is busy, and the instrument ought not be removed. The second screen that may appear will be reading instrument settings. At this point, the docking station is determining the instrument's current settings and if those settings need to be changed. And the third screen is update instrument settings. If the docking station needs to make changes to the instrument settings, the DS2 will do so automatically. And this would be in the event that something was changed in the field when the instrument makes contact with the docking station. The docking station will set it back to whatever configuration it was originally set up to be. That way it ensures that the instrument you removed off the docking station originally will be the same next time it's removed as well. Once the DS2 completes reading the instrument settings, one of a combination of 5 different processes will occur. If there is no scheduled event due for the instrument, then the instrument will just simply receive a charge. And this would be indicated with both a green and an amber LED lit on the DS2. The green LED shows that the instrument is ready to go, that we can take it and use it, where the amber LEDs are indication that the instrument is still receiving a charge. Now when the amber LED is no longer lit and we're left with just a green LED, that'd be your indication that the battery pack is fully charged in the instrument. Now if the instrument's using disposable batteries, then of course that charging indication will never appear. One of the scheduled events that the docking station may put the instrument through is something called a bump test. Now in a bump test, the instrument will be challenged by calibration gas delivered through the docking station to ensure proper sensor function. This is something we recommend be done before each day's use. And when the instrument is receiving that bump test, you'll see on the display of your DS2 the words testing instrument. Upon completion of a successful bump test, the docking station will show both a green and an amber LED, where the green would be an indication that it has passed that event, and the amber LED would be your indication that the battery is receiving a charge. And of course, at this point, we can remove the instrument, but we'd have to remember that the battery pack may not be fully charged. Now, if the instrument fails the bump test, the docking station will automatically put the instrument through a full instrument calibration. But if the calibration is due as an event on the docking station will put that instrument through that full calibration automatically. And the calibration is something we recommend be done as a scheduled event every 30 days. And upon completion of a successful calibration, the docking station will light both the green and the amber LED. Once again, the green LED is our indication that it has passed that calibration, and the amber LED that it's still receiving a charge. But of course, if the calibration fails, well, we'll get a red LED with the words unavailable instrument on the display. At this point, it had failed its calibration. We ought not use that instrument because in that instrument is a failed sensor. Another scheduled event that the DS2 can perform is downloading the instrument's data logger. Many of our instruments have the capability of data logging hundreds of hours of information, and that information can be downloaded through the DS2, stored away on the central server or onto the PC for later analyzation. Upon completion of the data log download, the DS2 will then clear the instrument's data logger. Upon completion, once again, we may get a green and an amber LED. Green showing that it's finished the scheduled event, and amber that it's still receiving a charge. Another scheduled event that the docking station may put the instrument through is something called instrument diagnostics. In instrument diagnostics, the instrument will receive a series of diagnostics checks ensuring that the instrument is functioning correctly. Upon completion and passing that diagnostics check, we'll receive both an amber and a green LED. Once again, the green showing that it's passed the diagnostics check, and the amber that it's still receiving a charge. Now, through the keypad of your docking station, you can activate any one of those 4 different functions. Now, you remember those 4 functions are scheduled event where the instrument will receive those different functions automatically, but if I wish to force one of those functions on demand, I can do so right through the keypad. And to access that, I simply press the Enter button. If the keypad has not been locked out, the user will now have the ability to select instrument as their option. And I do so by simply pressing the Enter button. At this point, I now have my same 4 scheduled events now available on demand. I'll have bump test, calibrate, download data log, and clear my data log. My first option you'll see there in bold is bump test. And this option allows me, of course, to bump test my instrument on demand. So to start this bump test, all I have to do is press my Enter button first. And then it'll prompt me to ensure that I do want to start my bump test. You'll see I have yes highlighted, so I'll press Enter again. And the first thing the DS2 will ensure that the proper gases are available to complete that bump test. At this point, I also have my amber LED let me know that the docking station is busy and I am not to remove my instrument. So it'll go through and do a full bump test, ensuring that the sensors are working correctly. And upon completion and a passing of that bump test, I will receive both my green and my amber LED. The green LED once again shows that the bump test is passed, with the amber showing that it's still receiving a charge. And from bump test, if I wish to calibrate my instrument, I can advance to calibration by pressing my right arrow. Once I have calibrate highlighted, I can now force the instrument through a calibration. Pressing the Enter button allows me to select that calibration. It'll ask me if I'm sure if I want to calibrate. I'll leave yes highlighted by pressing the Enter again. And the first thing, once again, the DS2 will check for available gases, making sure that I have the gas available for what the instrument is going to need. At this point, the DS2 will put the instrument through a full instrument calibration. Upon completion of a calibration, one of 2 conditions may appear on my DS2. The condition that we have here, for example, is that of an instrument failing the calibration. We know it's failed because we see the red LED illuminated and the words unavailable instrument on the display, This would be our indication that the instrument is not to be used until it's serviced. Where if it passed calibration, we'd get our standard green and amber LED indications. If we wish to force the downloading of our data logger, all we have to simply do is use our right arrow button to download data log. This option allows the user to download the instrument's data logger on demand. Pressing the Enter button will allow us access to this operation. The docking station will ask us if we are sure we want to download our data logger, and to confirm, all we have to do is simply press the Enter button. At this point, the instrument's data logger will automatically be downloaded to the docking station. And after it's done downloading, it'll then clear the instrument's data logger. And at this point, we'll then receive a green and an amber LED. Green showing us that the downloading of the data logger is complete, and amber that the battery pack is receiving a charge. Once again, we can remove the instrument with the green and amber indication. Just the amber indications are indication that the battery pack's not fully charged. And another event I can access is to simply just clear my data log. By using my right arrow button, I can highlight Clear Data Log. Now this option allows me to clear the instrument's data logger, even if it's never been downloaded before. So be careful about choosing this option because it'll clear all the instrument's internal information from the data logger. Pressing the Enter button allows you to select this option. It'll want you to confirm it by pressing Enter for yes, and it'll automatically clear out all the information in the data logger. Upon completion of that clearing, you'll receive once again both a green and an amber LED. Now, should the docking station encounter an error, the red LED will be lit and an error message will appear on the display. One of the errors I may encounter is unavailable instrument. If this message appears on your docking station's display, one of the following has occurred. The instrument has failed a calibration. The instrument has failed the zeroing process. Or that sensor that's in the instrument has failed a calibration in another instrument. Because the sensors are serialized, the docking station remembers the sensor, and if it failed calibration from a previous time, the docking station won't even attempt to try to calibrate that sensor. It'll just instantly bring up unavailable instrument. If the gas has become disconnected from the back of the DS2 and this has caused your instrument calibration failure, unavailable instrument of course will appear on the instrument's display. And the way to overcome this failed calibration condition would be to simply force a calibration through the DS2's keypad. Another error message that may appear on the display of your DS2 would be unavailable gas. If this message appears, one of the following has occurred. The instrument requires a different gas type than what is available through the DS2. For example, if I have an instrument with an SO2 sensor and it makes contact with a docking station and SO2 is not set up on that docking station, it won't even attempt to do a calibration or a bump test. Rather, unavailable gas will appear. Another reason that I may see unavailable gas would be because the calibration gas cylinder pressure is low. This is particularly true if I'm using a pressure transducer with my regulators. Or maybe that calibration gas cylinder has expired. The docking station will not allow you to use expired calibration gas. Or maybe the calibration gas cylinder is just empty. Another error message would be unavailable server. If this message has appeared, the DS2 is no longer communicating with the server. It is purely offline. To remedy this, I can check my network connections, ensuring that everything is in place. I also want to check and ensure that the server is up and running properly. And finally, we want to ensure that the network is up and running properly. Another error message that may appear on the display of your DS2 would be unavailable leaking. This would be an indication that the docking station has failed its last diagnostics check. And another error message that I may see appear on my display of my DS2 would be a smart card error. This smart card error would appear if I'm using iGas readers. And this would indicate that the iGas reader cannot read the card. And that could be because either the card is at fault or the reader itself has failed. And my last would be unavailable. This message may appear to indicate a serious fault has occurred and recommends a user to contact tech services at 1-800-338-3287 for correction.